Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And patch 12.0.7 has been live now for a couple of days, and while there was no specific class tuning, there was a handful of changes that are going to impact your gameplay by a significant margin. So in today's video, I wanted to cover those because there's not a lot of details about them. You're probably just going to randomly stumble upon them if you're lucky enough to stumble upon them, or you're going to know about it by the end of this video so that you're not behind the competition, basically. And if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, educational and entertaining content, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. The first update that they have delivered here in patch 12.0.7 is that they are changing how the cutoffs work for rank 1 titles in Solo Shuffle, Battleground Blitz, and 3 versus 3. Basically, at the moment, there are some specializations that are less popular than others, which means there are less spots available to get those titles. It's usually around 3. So something like a Balanced Druid in Solo Shuffle, the spec that I play, it's usually only 3 people get it. So it's highly competitive. It's also highly subject to cheating and abuse by only having that many limited spots available to it. So Blizzard actually listened to the feedback that has been provided towards this cutoff and are increasing the minimum threshold to 8 players per specialization. And it is, I think, still implied that you'll be able to, if there's an alt, so let's say someone has 2 enhancement shamans, it's one person with 2 enhancement shamans in the top 8, it extends it to the 9th player. So it creates more spots. So something like enhanced shaman, which I think is also only 3 spots, you've got players on the ladder like Big Dam, who's got like 30 enhanced shamans. It's going to extend the number of people that get that, which I think is a really good change. I think it's a healthy change. This is exactly what a lot of those lesser represented specializations needed to encourage people to stick to their main and to go after those titles, and hopefully going to limit the amount of abuse and cheating that seems to be going on at the moment. That's why I think by making these titles more accessible, by increasing MMR as they have to make Gladiator more accessible, is really good for the game. The amount of players actually at the moment who are playing rated PvP that have the Gladiator mount now is at like 7%, I think. And these numbers some people are throwing around at me, I don't know how accurate they are, but it does feel like significantly more. So if going for Gladiator is something that you kind of just wrote off for yourself as like, this is never going to happen, there's no point in me doing it, I don't think you should entirely write it off. This is probably the season, if there ever was a season, to really give it a serious go around. Now, if you're going to be building your team, LFG is kind of one and done. You might get lucky, find a diamond in the rough, but most of the time you play, you lose once and everybody leaves and no one talks to each other ever again. I recommend you go to like the PvP Reddit or to the WoW PvP forums, make a post saying, this is my character, I play this spec, this experience, I'm looking for people who play these classes to build an ideal composition, which if you check out my top 10 comps for Gladiator, which I'll have linked at the end of this video, you'll have an idea what comps suited for your specialization to go look for those players, and also make sure that they can play at the same time as you. Like, what days are you available, right? Because most of you guys, let's be honest here, probably in our mid-30s. You probably got kids or a career or a job. You don't have a lot of time, limited time to play, scheduling, things like that. That's what's great about these forum posts is you can just put them up, let them sit there for a while, go back in, find people, add people, and then have consistent partners. The most important thing is just having a good comp and a consistent team that plays regularly enough. And with continued inflation, I think the Gladiators, this is probably going to be the most accessible Gladiator mount of all time, and it's actually one of the best looking ones. I actually debatably would say it's the best looking Glad mount when you look at like the fidelity, the pixels, and the animations that are on it. I've been doing some side-by-side comparisons of it. It's probably the best looking Glad mount. So I like this. Main concern with this title, though, that I've seen brought up as feedback is tank specializations, because some of the tanks right now under this rule set would get a rank 1 title at 1700 rating. So my concern with that isn't that tank players don't deserve rank 1 titles. It's that people are going to massively re-roll to tank because it seems so easy to get it. And suddenly we're just going to have a flood of tanks on the ladder, and I don't know if that's going to be a good thing. At least in Solo Shuffle, I don't know if that's going to be a good thing. Kind of is what it is, but like people are already kind of cheesing the tank titles with 3 spots. I can't imagine how much they're going to cheese it with 8, especially if there's alts and what could go there. That's the only concern at the moment that I've seen for this. That's a major concern that you definitely want to be aware of. So, I mean, if you ever want to go for a rank 1 title and you feel like you're not very good, you could technically abuse this by going tank, and I think it would probably be a lot easier unless everybody does it, and then, oh god, the ladder is gonna have to be purged like Arthas and Stratholme if that happens, man. that's going to be rough if it happens, but it might happen. I think this is healthy for all the other specs, but the tank stuff, a little bit worried about it. Love what they're doing with MMR right now for Gladiator, making it more accessible, making this end of season titles more accessible. Hopefully it's going to kind of shore up, or at least make the cheating not feel as impactful. Hopefully it's going to limit boosting also, and all the account sharing that goes on by making these things easier, so people don't feel like they have to buy a boost if they're ever going to be able to go for them. That's the main advantage that I see of this. Obviously there are those are short-term benefits. Long-term consequences is if the Glad mount's too easy to get, then what's the next reward for people to go after, which then begs the question of, obviously, I think there needs to be more rewards. They were aware of that in Mythic Plus. That's why they added the 1% mount and things like that. So I think it goes without saying, it's obvious that having more rewards, like mounts for Battleground Blitz and Solo Shuffle, and maybe an additional mount in between Gladiator or after Gladiator, depending on how easy this is to get, I think that's like obvious feedback that would help out the situation at the moment, because it's stuff that they're literally applying to Mythic Plus. That is, I would assume, driving up the participation there. The next major thing that we have to talk about is that Blizzard is getting serious about no add-ons. Like, they just went in and completely ripped mini CC out of the game. Now, they did set that as their mission from the beginning of the expansion. They said no more add-ons, no more cooldown tracking, no more giant icons in the middle of your screen. Expansion came out, and it kind of seemed like everything was still working, just a more janky version of it. And it was like, this doesn't seem like they've hit the target, with what they were aiming for midnight. 12.0.7, they have limited a lot. If you've noticed, your mini CC does not work anymore. And Blizzard has listed their intent is that this is not going to work at all ever. So don't think it's going to get patched, updated, whatever, or fixed, unless there's some workaround that the add-on developers can manage to find, which I think they did, honestly, in the previous iterations. It's gone. It's gone. You're not going to be able to track that. So if you're someone who is like excited about the fact that there were no add-ons and then annoyed that there were still kind of some add-ons, this patch basically got them all out of the game. So the titles and rewards are a lot more accessible, and the add-on situation has basically been culled. I've been playing with no add-ons the entire time. I see a lot of people bringing up concerns for it. With my UI, which, I could make a video on how to set up my UI and go over it and show you guys, because I've been able to see stuff. People are saying like some cooldowns aren't being tracked, and that's the issue, which I agree with. If they aren't, we should raise those individual circumstances up as feedback, like, hey, this cooldown's not getting tracked and I don't see it pop up anywhere on the screen. Can we add it to this list? Because I think that's stuff that they would do. But I haven't really noticed any issues. I can see precognition. It's a little hard. It's kind of small next to their health bar, their character frame, for the most part, but it's there. Like, I've been able to play with no add-ons. There's some issues towards the start, but most recently, I think probably with no problem, next to no problem. I was honestly a player who was kind of annoyed that the Gladiator Losa and mini CC things and popping up big boxes and stuff like that was still a thing, because that's the whole point, was this is going to be gone and we're going to just be playing the game raw again. People are going to be more likely to make mistakes, which makes the game more fun. It's a lot less fun when there's just giant bleepers telling you what to press next in the middle of your screen that completely negate a ton of situations, and at all times what everybody has, and there's no guessing or manual calculation at all. I feel like it removes a lot of gameplay. And you're just kind of like matching the boxes for a lot of it. I actually really enjoy no add-on gameplay, so I'm very happy about this. So it seems to me like the major missions of like, get the add-ons out of here, make the rewards easier to get so more people try PvP, they're hitting that stuff. Also, the item level was increased, and we got the aluminum folio thingy. The aluminum folio thing is very minor. I think most people are playing the fire choice, but it's probably not going to really have any impact until we're 5 weeks in. So it's a good idea to do it. It doesn't take very long to do it in between like your queues and stuff like that. And then by week 5, it's probably going to be like 2 or 3% of your damage. At the moment, it's like weaker than a leg enchant, and it's account wide. Just do it once, and then you just have the talent tree for every other character. So it's very easy in that regard. Don't think it's going to have a huge impact unless it ends up being bugged or I'm totally off on the numbers, or they buff it by a lot. And if they do any of those things, I'll let you guys know in a video. So again, it's a good idea to hit the subscribe button. But with the item level increase, a lot of the specs that were maybe not as good, things like Shadow Priest, I think, and maybe even Ellie and Warlock too, they feel better. And I made a prediction tier list. I'll make an official tier list update in the future, but my initial 2-day experience is that a lot of specs that maybe were like a smidge weaker feel better now with more haste and more intellect. And I've actually been enjoying pretty much every character that I've played over the past couple of days here on my live stream. So the meta feels good. I do hope that they do something about Mage. I feel like Mage is outstanding in all content, Mythic Plus and PvP. In Mythic Plus, it has no passive mitigation for damage reduction, so it just gets one shot on high keys, and it's an issue. In PvP, in the hands of new players, it dies very easily, but on pro players, it's invincible. So I think changing some of their active mitigation, removing some of their keybinds, and making them a little more passively tanky, but not as oppressive with like multiple invises and things like that, would go a long way to helping new players, making them more viable in Mythic Plus, and then not having the high rated like PvP pro level played completely botched, right? Like it's a win-win for everybody to make an adjustment like this for Mage. Also, Preservation Evoker as a flag carrier is completely broken. You can Emerald Communion while hovering, while moving and immune, and fly through the air and rescue and use infinite mobility. And it seems like the suppression from the PvP talent towards movement speed applies to the flag carrying debuff that's supposed to slow you down over time. So you're just a hyper jet plane at all times, untouchable with God healing and infinite cooldowns that you can use while carrying the flag, and no other healer can do that. Probably should do something about Preservation Evoker when it comes to flag carrying. And to me, it's Frost Mage and maybe Fire Mage, but I think Frost Mage, that's the most kind of egregious towards active mitigation. And they should look at making more passive defense for Mage in general, and then removing some of the active mitigation and keybinds so that it's better for new players, and not just so obnoxious at the pro level in the hands of the best players. But those are my thoughts right now on patch 12.0.7. That's the roundup of all the news of everything that's going on. So I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below with everything that's going on. Am I totally wrong on this? I've had some players disagreeing with me on some of these points, so it would be very interesting to see your opinions here in the comment section as well. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.